Find my live streams at livestream.com 7 days a week, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Canada time. And that all you have to do is look for that picture you see when my name pops up. Type in Dana Durnford at livestream.com. Hi to everybody that's joining the live stream today. And I think we got a really compelling show again today. Let me turn that off. So we are streaming. All you gotta do is find a button that turns everything off, and life is really good. I'm gonna start off the stream today with 30 seconds on the guitar. I'm way out of practice, but we'll give it a try and see how that works out. So watch your volumes. I'm gonna turn it down on my end. Hopefully that works out. Nice try, Dana. Next time, maybe we get better luck. I put an extra pickup in that guitar. Watch your volumes. And so sometimes I don't get it right. Sometimes I get it right. Fukushima. We left off yesterday in episode 1 on unit 4. We'll bring that little pretty baby up here. And unit 4, of course, anybody's not familiar with these reactors, let me remind you right quick. Japan had a 9.0 earthquake that traveled through the country at 9,000 miles per hour. It shook the country for 6 minutes. It was felt in Florida a half an hour later. There was many aftershocks, huge aftershocks that day. Followed by a tsunami. The tsunami ran through the whole country. It didn't just run through the nuclear power plants. I'll give you a quick picture of what that would look like. And so about 500 miles of the country was pounded heavily. 4 meltdowns. They detonated and they threw the rods all over that site. This is unit 1. This was 100% meltdown, melt through, melt out. That's unit 2. So all of these reactors, this is unit 3. And we're going to pick up on unit 4. And these are all 100% meltdowns, melt-throughs, melt-outs. And so if you look at these reactors, what you realize is that, oops, Dana, get back out of there. Maybe that'll help. Fukushima has reactor 1, 100% meltdown. Reactor 2, 100% meltdown. Reactor 3, 100% meltdown. Reactor 4, which you can see up there, he's okay. No, seriously, that's what they claim. He's okay. But we know better, and so we're not going to have conversations about that nonsense today. What we are going to talk about is many things today, and that these are the most important topics you could ever understand. These are very pertinent and important in every sense of the word, because you have been deceived now for 4.5 years. They originally told you there was no melted reactors, but when you're looking at your, and that even though the entire country, and so we'll jump into that, let me show it to you. And so they couldn't get power into the nuclear power plants. After 90 minutes, the power plants will start melting down. And because this was symmetrical throughout the whole coastline, you can go look up the tsunami videos in each of the cities along the coastline. And so because this was symmetrical throughout the coastline, that's why they're only opening nuclear power plants on the inside of Japan. So where you see the word Japan, on that side of the island, not the open side where it says Tokyo. So the power plants that they're opening are not going to be where that earthquake was too. You see where that pounded really heavily? Those power plants were also slammed with a tsunami. And so these are stories that you probably never heard before if you're not familiar with this subject. But many nuclear power plants melted down on the coastline. And so it wasn't just the 4 at Japan reactor that they finally admit to, but but they have admitted to it. And so the ocean currents are actually real. The jet streams are real. And so that is a problem with the academics. Now, if you think that the fallout was contained to the power plant, you might ask yourself, why are they collecting this stuff throughout the entire country and putting it in bags? Huh? Yeah, that's a pretty interesting question, yeah? Well, because the tsunami didn't allow them to get into the power plants and stop the chain reactions. Not that they could after 90 minutes, but it took many weeks before they finally got power there. Everything was melted and gone by then, washed away by the tsunami throughout the entire country. And so that is the lie that has been perpetrated upon you. Here's another one of them. Let me give you a better, smaller graphic so you can see it a little bit better. And so we got a little better quality today, I'm hoping. I boosted up the quality dramatically, actually. And before I jump into this story, we're going to go over and talk about James Colbert from the Colbert Report, who just put out a video. We're going to bring in my laptop here. Hopefully that will show up. There she be. I'll get rid of my moniker. And so that's our live stream, by the way. That'll change in a second as it catches up with the live stream. This is what a polar bear, a healthy polar bear, would look like. Okay, and the reason we're going to start off on this is because this is James Colbert. He had 211 views. I watched the whole video. He didn't mention anything about the emaciated polar bears, but he made fun of people that talked about it. And so these cute, furry little global warming icons are in danger, according to the bought and paid for campaigners in the global warming alarmist industry. Now, I'm not advocating today anything in that conversation, even though, let me jump back to me for 1 second. So you got to understand that there's 90,000 container ships on the ocean. Just hang on, bear with me. There's 90,000 container ships on the ocean. And each one of those produces, they're burning bunker fuel from the container ships. So this is the fuel left over. Now, this stuff is supposed to be on a toxic waste site till the end of time, but they decided they can burn it in the Pacific or in the big industry. And so a container ship, 16 of them, produces more pollution than all the automobiles on the planet. 90,000 of them that are currently on the ocean, with another 2,900 in now, one of these will produce more pollution than all the automobiles in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and some. Around 50 million cars and trucks and everything. So there's animosity equivalent to 42 trillion people on the planet every day from the ships that are on the ocean. But yet we breathe the air, yet the planet survives, yet the adverse effects are hard to recognize in many instances in the common person's life. Okay, let's go back to James Colbert's video this morning. And now, this is an emaciated polar bear. He didn't bother showing anybody that one. And this one was followed for 700 miles. He starved to death because the Fukushima has killed. Let me come back. I got a list here for what the Fukushima has killed off, just for a quick list. Missing are the anchovies, the krill, the sardines, the salmon, and there's birds. Now, I can say that with authority because what we done was 15,000 miles of the Canadian coastline. I'll give you a quick rundown of that. We done 15,000 miles of the Canadian coastline in that boat. And I better check my volume because sometimes that volume comes on. It's really loud. But so we done 15,000 miles of the coastline, and that's what this looks like. All those arrows are just emblematic of spots where we could have spent a week or more, and where we got those pictures up at the nuclearproctologist.org. And hang on, I'll bring it up for you so you can find it if you're looking at this later. So you go to the nuclearproctologist.org, and you will find the pictures from that expedition. Does that make sense for you? And that instead of looking like that, the coastline now looks like this. And instead of looking like this everywhere you went, the coastline never looked like that in 15,000 miles. It looks like what you're seeing now, rather. But it never looked like this. Now, this is what I'm used to as a commercial diver and being on the ocean all my life everywhere I go. And when I go ashore, it's slippery and tricky, and you don't want to tread on the animals. Now you can go ashore anywhere. You will not fall down no matter where you go. And so that's part of what we do. And in context of that, urchins could be the next victims of wasting, sea star wasting disease. This is the Smithsonian this year. And he said, so far, urchin die-offs have been observed and documented at 4 sites along 200 miles of the coastline. And so because of that, and another 5th site, they declared a mass mortality event for that. But yet we covered 15,000 miles, 260 days, Dana and the Hounds of Fukushima. And we show that there is a extinction event. Not only an extinction event, but a dramatic event for all 8 million species on the Pacific Ocean. And so the list that I'm showing you earlier, this list coming up here, is just a representation of the food chain is now destroyed and gone. And that's why we say the things we say, which might sound salacious to some people, I'm sure. In comparison, Chernobyl lasted 10 days, Fukushima 1,700 days and ongoing. Chernobyl was 1/3 meltdown and 1/3 the size of any of the reactors at Fukushima. Fukushima has 4 meltdowns. Chernobyl was 600 or 700 kilometers from the ocean. Now the rivers can still bring it down there, but it's still not directly on the ocean. Fukushima is right on the ocean, hemorrhaging directly into the ocean. Chernobyl, over 1 million dead, over 3 million children with permanent disabilities, according to Kofi Annan in 2002 at United Nations. And in Fukushima, according to the media, no one has died. Yet 7 people died on a single street in Fukushima, shopping street, just dropped dead. We've never seen that on our planet before. Chernobyl has an exclusion zone. Fukushima, they moved them back. Chernobyl, the homes were demolished. Fukushima, you get free homes if you're a pregnant. And so some people are not playing with a full deck. No matter how they try, they are not playing with a full deck. I don't care what you think about their rationality, but they're not playing for a full deck. Like I say, once again, sea stars from the Smithsonian after 5 spots considered a mass mortality. Dana and the Hounds of Fukushima to the entire coast show there's a mass mortality of every species, ignored, ridiculed, marginalized, demonized, vilified relentlessly in the media. Chernobyl, for instance, think about Chernobyl, 2006. Look at the 3rd sentence. For the next 10 days, produced the equivalent of 400 Hiroshima bombs. Now, it stopped after 10 days. That's why he said it that way. But it radiated 150,000 square miles of Europe and beyond. But yet, Fukushima apparently didn't cause any damage. 4 melted reactors, like I showed you earlier. Fukushima, and we are the authority on this, Fukushima, let me bring that up for everybody. Estimate hundreds of years to stop the reactors. Chernobyl stopped after 10 days, remember? And the dead of the Pacific is my estimate by early 2017, it'll be nothing left. And we'll go back to James Coburn in a minute. And that means 4 million species are wiped out already in 4.5 years. And so anybody who thinks that Fukushima is not an event upon this planet have got a lot to learn. Fukushima is an early extinction level event, and we need to act, and there is no hope to save the Pacific Ocean. And we cannot ignore this any longer. This is our watch, this is our obligation, this is our last stand on this planet, according to the data that we accumulated showing that there's an extinction event throughout the coastline. And so what that means, anybody, we go back to Colbert in a second, because this ties together. What this means is that there's supposed to be 4 million other species in that ocean, and they didn't recede the coastline. So if the species that I talk about, the 5,600 species, the 600 algae, the kelps, the 480 species of worms, the 78 species of starfish. They only admit that 18 have disappeared, but I show they're all gone, and there's only a couple hanging on, and that they are lethargic and wasting. And that there's 76 species of sea anemones, and that we only found 2 species. Out of the water, and they were symmetrical throughout the coastline, but the only one that was really popular was the green, but it was hard to find adults. There was also 6,500 invertebrates without the backbones. There's the faunas, the floras, the insects, the spiders were missing throughout the forest on that whole expedition. You see behind me, 260 days. A couple of 100,000 pictures documenting it with the GPSs. And Cedar are still nowhere near what we actually covered. We covered all the inside channels, the fjords, the inlets, verbatim, repeatedly. And so there can be no mistake that what we talk about is important, because everything we talk about is what they say doesn't exist. This is Dr. Raymond Gilmedi from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute in New Mexico. Dr. Raymond Gilmedi is everybody's favorite villain. He killed beagle dogs and beagle puppies for 35 years. And with americium plutonium from a chain reaction. It's the same stuff we talk about. And all of his animals did die, every one of them. All of them, bar nothing, died. And so the consequences, the toxicity of inhaled plutonium dioxide in beagle dogs was fatal after 3 to 5 years. Tumors of the lung, skeleton, and livers began at about 3 years after exposure. Bone tumors were the most common cause of death. Lung tumors, 46. Well, the bone tumors were 90. That's cut out there. You can't see it, sorry. Liver tumors were found in 20 dogs were the cause of death in only 2 dogs because of the bone tumors and all the other tumors. But this was study after study after study. Right? And Dr. Raymond Gilmedi had the 2000 Distinguished Scientist Award. And that how can you compare fruit flies to his studies? How can you compare bananas? Let me bring up that one. I got one for you. You know it's a nuclear moron you're listening to if they say it's like a banana. You know it's a nuclear moron you're listening to if they said it's like a potato chip, and that now you should disregard everything they've ever said, and that you should never, under any circumstance, allow people to fall for that. If you hear someone say a nuclear moron, you'll know they're a nuclear moron if they say it's like getting on an airplane or walking in sunshine. These are the most despicable people imaginable. These are the people with the PhDs that are put out in the media to lie to you. You know it's a nuclear moron if they say there is more natural radiation in fish than there is from Japan's reactors. You know that is the stupidest thing imaginable on the planet. And my all-time favorite, radiation is everywhere. No one ever died from Fukushima. And so what these people are saying is unconscionable. That is unconscionable to say that kind of stuff. It really is. It's absolute murder by telling people to go out and eat fish when the ocean is actually contaminated. That's murder. All those people, when they die, that's murder. It's like me giving you a poison pill, but it takes you several years to die. Is that not murder? If I shoot you and you die several years later from that injury, is that not murder? And by proxy, if I'm a respected academic and I tell you, like Woods Hole and UVic, that it's okay to eat the fish, and you find out that it's full of radioactive material from Japan's melted reactors that are all hot particles, like Dr. Raymond Gilmedi studies, those particles are nowhere near as hot as what's coming out of Fukushima. What's coming out of Fukushima is mixed oxide. It's MOX. It's where they reclaimed plutonium and uranium. And let's go back to James Colbert. But it's where they... So James Colbert ignored these pictures and came out and poked fun at anybody by proxy that talked about him. Saying, oh, this is ridiculous. There's no such thing as starving polar bears. But yet, what do you see there? These are the starving polar bears that starved to death. I'll get back to that headline later, maybe. But that was James Colbert. Now, let me come over here and show you what a real bear looks like. See that? Huh? You got any idea? Like, I come from a place... Hang on. Like, I come from a place where you shoot polar bears every year or two. Someone in some town close to me or in my town shot a polar bear. And then I seen lots of them. I used to take a gun out on the ocean, on the Atlantic, in case the polar bears showed up when we were diving. And then when there's ice around, you can't go out there without a gun because the polar bears can come aboard your boat. It's not that we have a history of that happening, but we do. We have histories of them climbing in to the windows of bingo halls every year. We see these animals every year where I'm from. I'm very familiar with the polar bear. Let's go back to the polar bear. So this polar bear is a healthy polar bear. This polar bear is not a healthy polar bear. These are 2015. These polar bears traveled 700 miles. This one in particular starved to death. He starved to death. Scientists tracked him for 700 miles. Think about that. And he starved to death. Because all the fish, all the sardines, all the herring, all the anchovies, all the mackerel, all the sardines, got to bring that back up, all the krill, all the squid, the salmon, and 300 birds. So I only counted 11 species in 260 days. And that from one end of the coastline to the other end of the coastline in a straight run over 5 days, I counted 400 birds. Most of them were in front of communities. And so it's an extinction event in every sense of the word. That's why all the whales, sea lions, the birds are all dying, because all of their food that you see below in that list there are missing. Yeah? Yeah. That's actually what's going on. Let's go back to James Colbert. Colbert Report. Doesn't bother mentioning, showing people that and explaining that away because you can't. This is what a healthy polar bear looks like. Look at that. Now see, that's what I'm used to seeing. That's impressive, yeah? Look at that. That's 2013, if I remember correctly, or late 2012. That's 2015. That was in Norway, I believe. This was a photographer took this picture, had followed these these bears for the last 40 years or so, taking pictures of them, and cried when they seen it. They have never seen that before. And then BBC and CBC and everybody jumped on it and blamed global warming. Never blamed the lack of food. They blamed global warming. They never said all the food was missing. This is what I'm used to seeing. That's why we carried a gun when we were on the Atlantic Ocean diving. Years ago, you wouldn't have to do it now. You might have to do 2 people there now. But look at these animals. This is Canada. This is northern Canada's, or East Coast, North Canada, if I remember correctly. Polar bears. And this bear was 2013 August, northern Canada. Or no, that one was in, I think Salivar. Don't quote me, I can't remember now. I got so much of this stuff. But there you go. And so James Colbert coming out and talking about making fun of global warming and the polar bears is a nice way to demonize anybody that tries to have a conversation about polar bears being emaciated. That's bullshit is what they're going to say to you. That's nonsense is what they're going to claim. That's nothing but the Photoshop is what they're going to get out into the chat rooms and pronounce. And so I can bring up, say hi to everybody. Hi, Ken, Bob, Lonnie. Illusion is over. Atom. Divine Rights. Candace. Lonnie. RWP. Climate change is real, though. It is real. But it's not in the context. It's being used as a tool to bludgeon anybody to talking about Fukushima. It's used as a tool to take away from Fukushima. It's used as a tool to try to marginalize Fukushima, to keep the nuclear industry alive. So, just making sure I say hi to a few people. And looking good. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kate. And Kay. Daniel is out there somewhere. Alex. We'll just say hi for a few moments, just so I can get back on track now. We just finished up with the James Colbert emergency broadcast to counter his video that he put. And I'll just make sure I say hi to everybody. We got lots of comments. Hi, Duke. And hello, everybody. Okay, we're going to go back to the stream here in a second. So let me hang into the stream for a second. Is the quality better today? Is the audio okay today? I'll just hang on for a few seconds. I'll come right back. A few comments in a few moments. Should throw in a few comments. I'll get rid of that background picture. Let's get into some detail. Excuse me. Takes me a while sometimes to live stream, and that's why I exist. And the chat room got 47 people burning the ropes there. Feel free to say hi, everybody. Hi, Daniel. Divine. Adam. Yeah. Thirst. Rattle Shark. Finnegan. Illusion. Let's keep going then. Sounds great. Quality is good. So the video is a better quality today, I hope, anyway. Let's keep going. Looks good, Terry Ann. Hi, Terry Ann. Hi, everybody. Sounds good, says Candace. Bob. Okay. Sounds okay. It's a bit low. For everybody else going to have to turn down their sound a little snot. Audio's going in and out. Hi, Robert. Okay, let's keep going with the stream. Let's get back into the program. So everybody, there you go. I was just reading your comments. Audio's going in and out. Yeah, pretty good on that end, says Adam. Hi, everybody. Hi, David. Okay, folks, sorry if I don't get anybody else. We're going to zip back into the show. Show. I got to learn what I'm doing at some point. Dana. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's get that shit. Old page out of the way and come back with that other page is what I meant to do. Dana. And, okay, looking good, folks. Thank you. And so we're still new at this. We don't really have a good handle on live stream. But all of Japan got washed away. Okay. Now, they couldn't get in and stop the tsunami. Gone. They couldn't get in and repair the building because the power was gone. Everything was melting down and detonating and blowing out a massive, enormous amount of radioactivity. Think about the detonations. Think about they got in with garden hoses. These reactors need 1 million gallons a minute. 1 million gallons a minute to stay cool. I'm probably not going to find the one I'm looking for, but I'll try. Just give me 1 second, folks. I'm looking for a headline. I'll pop back. I'll pop back and do it. Yeah, there it is. Here we go. I'm going to bring us back over to the laptop. And some concerns raised over Peach Bottom nuclear plant proposal to suck up another 13.5 million gallons a day. Now, what's the big deal about that, Dana? Well, you can see they're running those rivers dry, the nuclear power plant, and it's running it dry not only from 13.5 extra million gallons a day, but because it sucks up 2.2 billion gallons a day, and it returns 35.5 million gallons daily to the river. But what's going on is that, what's going on is that the water is, the agency is concerned about those 35 million gallons they're putting back from the 2.2 million they're evaporating with the radionuclides, because it lessens the temperature to heat of water before being poured back into the river. And so what they're doing is, and I'll come back over, so what they're talking about was that 2.2 million gallons, 35 million goes back into the river, but it's so hot it's killing everything in the river. And so that fire hose you see behind me is not 2.2 billion gallons a day going on these reactors to keep them in check. They need 1 million gallons a minute. And so when you take it into context that the whole coastline was destroyed, how could they get 2.2 million gallons or billion gallons rather, 2.2 billion gallons or whatever it took per day for the other reactors to keep them from melting down? How could they get to the other reactors? And as a visual for you, think about that stuff running through the reactors. I'll bring it up for a bigger picture for you so you can really appreciate how devastating that tsunami was. Think about that. How TEPCO's released pictures of the flooding of its Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Do you think the tsunami was just that spot only? If you do, send your hate mail to Dana Durnford at hotmail.com. Okay, so Unit 4 is where we left off yesterday. We're probably not going to get much farther than that today because of James Colbert. Now, James Colbert, just a reminder, he has Fukushima updates where UVic, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and the Ministry, the bootlickers, the lapdogs, the little puppets. That's all he puts up there. And so he doesn't up there and explaining to people that they tore everything off and therefore there's no fuel pull is wrecked. It doesn't look like that on the ceiling inside of a building that we know melted down. All this damage because they couldn't get in there. And they couldn't get in there because the whole country for 500 miles of Japan's coastline looked like that. Hang on. Dana Durnford. Hi, Ben. I'm live streaming right now, my friend. I'll check my email or give you a call back after it. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. That's the way it goes sometimes. You got to answer the phone. I always answer the phone. Don't care who phones me. I'm going to answer the phone. Now, Japan earthquake didn't just destroy Daiichi. Yeah. And that the detonations weren't contained just to Fukushima plant. We know that definitively just by the evidence that they collected radioactive material throughout the country and put it in bags. And they got 166,000 tons of it. They admitted recently in a headline that they want to bury in the ground. And that they're upset because the locals won't let them take that stuff and put it on their property for a couple of years. They said, oh no, we'll get it off the property in a couple of years. But it leaches out and contaminates the property even more. And that when you have a flood, it gets washed away anyway. And that the people that collected it were sacrificed. And that the majority of them didn't even speak Japanese. They were immigrants who didn't speak the language, who were desperate for a job and don't understand what they're doing. Or edit that. Remember, not everybody on the planet is connected to the internet, and not everybody is privileged, like Canadians, for instance, like myself. Sometimes I wonder if I'm privileged or not. What else have I got here for you? We know we got something else there for you. Bling, bling. Let's get on with the story. Anyway, all of these reactors are hemorrhaging into the ocean. And so starting tomorrow's stream is what we're going to cover is Unit 1, 2, 3, and 4 in more detail. And today we're kind of just introducing you to Fukushima. And so this is the Pacific Ocean model. This is based upon 6 years. It's only based up on a single release from a single reactor. It's not based up on, it's based up on just several days releases from that reactor. We know that, and I showed you yesterday, I talked about that. But we'll go into details of how that inventory is gone and how we know it's gone and that it's admitted that it's gone. That's Unit 2. How all that inventory is absolutely positively gone and how all the inventory of that is absolutely positively gone. And where did it go? Well, it didn't go back into the fuel pool like the official pictures. These are all official pictures I'm showing you. That's the official picture of the inside of that. None of that makes any sense to anybody that looks at the other pictures. How can you get that and that? Huh? And this is allegedly, RT was allegedly in that building. Of course, RT says Chernobyl, Fukushima is the second worst accident after Chernobyl. So RT is still propagating out that Fukushima is the second worst world reactor. You don't believe me? I'll find a headline for you. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you disagree? Here we go. I'll bring it up for you. Yeah. Russia offers Let me get that chummy out of the way for you. Russia offers to help Japan shut down Fukushima reactors. Look at the last sentence. The Fukushima disaster is considered the second worst nuclear accident after Chernobyl. You should go to that headline, find out whoever wrote it, tell him that he's bananas. I can't tell you what to say because they'll use that to demonize me and arrest me again. They'll vilify me again in Canadian media throughout Canada and accuse me of death threats when I'm charged with criminal harassment of people who say that there's no such thing as jet streams or ocean currents. And if it did show up here, it's like a banana. Somehow in this crazy world, I'm the bad guy. They went through 500 hours of my footage to find a couple of sentences to beat me up with. And they waited until months and months after I said the sentences. This isn't a disclosure. And for a year and a half, they used draconian measures against me as we started the expedition for life to censor me on the internet. That's in a disclosure. That was FBI. That was Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. That was the RCMP Saanich Department, Constable Steve Crooks from the Saanich Police Department. And UVic, University of Victoria, coordinated that to censor me without a warrant. In the disclosure. They claimed they didn't know who I was. Well, we know who Dots is, Connecting Dots is. His name is Louis L'Amour. We'll be reading that in the newspaper soon, I'm sure. He owes me $3,000. He better put it in my account before he gets picked up. He's done. He's done. He hung himself, big time. Hung himself, literally, every sense of the word. But every video he made was to demonize me. He stalked me, took pictures of my home. His day is coming. His day is coming. I'm waiting for a phone call, and then his day is coming. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He's a done deal. And he's going to pay dearly. We'll get all the dots on him. But his name is Louis L'Amour. He's from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. There's a good possibility he's police or CSIS or Navy. He's definitely hooked up with the intelligence agencies. But we got his name. So the RCMP couldn't find my name, so they used draconian laws to censor me. But they couldn't find my name. They used YouTube to bludgeon me. Pretty sneaky. Well, we know who Louis L'Amour's name is from Connecting Dots Silver Gold, man. $3,000. He still hasn't phoned me. Here's my number. 604-223. Get your last shot in. 0763. Come on, man. You owe me $3,000. I'm taking you up on your bet. That's 3 days in a row. You monitor everything I've ever done come out in that part. Oh, okay. Probably best that you didn't. You have no idea. I can't wait to see you in my courtroom. It's going to be just glorious. I got a picture of you too, by the way. We'll have video of you when you come up here, though. I got friends of mine can't wait to meet you. No one's going to hurt you. No one's going to touch you. When you're real close to you with a video camera, though, you ain't going to be hiding your face anymore. I'm sure the silver and gold community can't wait to see pictures of you. My cigarettes don't got 7,000 chemicals. Don't swallow your tongue. I got CNT. They're natural tobacco. They got to filter it. Filter them through the lungs of your lungs easier. But my cigarettes don't have 7,000 chemicals. If you can't deal with me having a cigarette, you need to take a chill pill. Go get your Valium. Start sucking them down into you. Read the prescription first, though. Tie your shoes right after that so you don't trip. But anyway, that was Russia. Russia? Here's Russia. That 3 melter reactors, 100% meltdown unhinged that haven't stopped is not as bad as Chernobyl. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? What is your opinion of them saying that? Put it in the comment section. I'm going to run over and read it here in a second. For 15 to 20 seconds, I'm going to go over and read some of those comments. What you think about RT saying Fukushima is the second accident on the planet. Let's hear it. I want to hear it. I I want everybody to tell everybody else. I don't just want me saying it. I want to hear other people say it. I want to hear people, no, Dana, that's correct, or Dana, that's outrageous, or don't be sure. Thanks, Sam Thirst. I don't see anything there. Let's bring it up to comment. We're waiting for comments to show up on Chernobyl. Today kind of got too puffy, kapooey because of putting out his video, and we got everything screwed up for our second episode. I think we still done okay. He says at the end of it, he's exposing, debunking people. Well, I just debunked James Colbert. Let him see debunk that. Kind of like the nuclear hot seat. Won't mention my name. Okay, so we got some comments. Let's go for it. Dana, I agree, but I think you should have chosen some of your words more carefully. I always said you got to do it legally. I'm allowed to say what I want in Canada. Go out and read the comment section anywhere else. What do you mean chose my words more carefully? Go listen to what I said. Nobody bothers to do that. I'm not yelling at you. How can you say I should chose my words more carefully, that we should hang people legally? We should change the law to hang them legally like Japan does. How is that? Stepping out of line. How is anything I say stepping out of line? It's called freedom of speech. You might not like what I got to say, but you should die for my right to say it. Unless it's an outrageous, outright lie. Unless it's a fabrication. Unless it's deception. I'm not yelling at you. Or am I? I don't get where you're coming from. Does the death of the Pacific Ocean not warrant raising my voice? You know, I'm ashamed for not speaking out sooner, for speaking out more loudly, with more conviction. For not getting in their face and not having protests down there. I have regrets. I'm guilty of only that, of nothing else. You better get with the program, man. I'm not going to put up with it. You got a dead Pacific Ocean. What part about that is you can't wrap your mind around. Anybody else want to get under my skin here today? I'm not saying you're under my skin. But I'm saying one thing. I don't pander to anybody. I don't bootlick to anybody, including my subscribers or people that follow me. Or people that pretend that they're following me and then turn on me. I've had that done to me a couple of 100 times in the last year alone. You know what I'm saying? Come out and apologize for not getting your facts straight is more like it. I'm looking for questions. They are saying it because they don't... Well, we know why they're saying that. What I want to know was, what do you think of them saying that? Do you think it's reprehensible? Do you think it's despicable? Do you think that they don't know the difference? Do you think that they're not playing that down? Do you think that saying that is not detrimental to every species on the planet? Lonnie, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just saying. That's how people blog. They yell at the microphone. Everything sounds like you're yelling because you can't afford to go out and spend $1 million in proper equipment. So you look at Hollywood movies, all they do is whisper. They don't actually talk. They whisper. They tone all the time because they have such sensitive gear, and they don't talk in a loud. They can't talk and they can't raise and turn everything down so they can raise their voices. Everything's in a whisper. Us plebes, all we get is second-rate shit. Not that I got second-rate shit. Everything I got is a blessing. Everything I got is vital. Everything I got is the basics. And sorry, there's voice recognition. It's okay, George. T is not, because close enough, Lonnie, we kind of figured out from there. Case is, if we don't take the gloves off of an organism, well, the Pacific Ocean is perishing. Duke screwed up on the voice recognition. Think you're greedy lawyers and they're murderers. Poor Duke. That's a tough one, Duke. Don't worry about it. Comments work better here, folks. Yeah. According to Lonnie. Still so much bait and switch. What do you call it? We need you, not a martyr. How do you become a martyr? A martyr is somebody who blows themselves up to take out a bunch of people with them. Somebody kills themselves. I'm far from killing myself. Long way. Go look up the word martyr before you put that in my conversation, because people are influenced by what you're saying. Buddy, no offense, but that's how it works in my world. Next one I'm going to have to get rid of you. Kevin was interviewed at least 4 times and never showed his interviews. The CBC interviewed me twice, never even quoted me. And then everybody out there now is saying, oh, Dana, you took it too far. You said too much. Get your facts straight. Get your facts straight. I was charged with criminal harassment of people that have every reason in the world to want me locked up. That their whole world is crumbling around them. And that there's no way they can prosecute me without uncovering what they done. And that they done it in order to vilify me in gestures and slanders. Not one media bothered saying I was charged with criminal harassment. They all said I was... Do you know how extraordinarily different those charges are? Do you know the implications of those 2 charges? And do you know what that means to people across Canada? Everybody across Canada that knows me, read those headlines, called me up and told me. People are not going to put up with it. Let's put it that way. My cigarettes don't got 7,000 chemicals. Go bugger somebody else. Yeah. So let's keep going. So they sprayed in... does that thing look like it can handle 1 million gallons a minute? They had to fly that into Japan and find a way to get it to the nuclears, to the site, because you couldn't drive it there when it looked like that. Now could you? And so they didn't get any water in there. The pools don't look like that. They tore all the pools off the roof of it and all the reactors off it. The building was totally destroyed. Same as Unit 3 is totally destroyed. Same as Unit 2 is totally destroyed. Same as Unit 1 is totally destroyed. Same as all of them melted down. Same as the heat signature shows. Same as the fact that they need millions of gallons a minute. And blah, 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 blah. Verbatim. No, it's okay, Dana. You shouldn't have raised your voice, Dana. You shouldn't have called a lawyer, Dana. You shouldn't have stood your ground, Dana. You shouldn't be a martyr, Dana. That's what the lawyers said to me down in the courtroom. Hey, murders? What the fuck are you talking about? I'll be walking out of here 12 noon, for Christ's sakes. No, I'm not kidding you. And so, let's cover a couple of headlines. Fears marine life is being poisoned by the nuclear material. Let me move myself over. Maybe it'll make some sense for somebody. Maybe not. You can kind of see one eye of Dana. I got one eye. I can get that camera to move a little bit. Hang on. I think so. Let's read through some of these headlines anyway. Oh, I'm in trouble now. Hang on, folks. Hang on, folks. Oh, that's more tolerable. I don't like being too close to the camera anyway. Fears marine life is being poisoned. I gotta look over here on this screen. Fear marine life is being poisoned by nuclear material flown from Fukushima. But what? Fear marine life is being poisoned, Dina? That's not what we wanted. There we go. That's what we wanted. Lethal threat from Fukushima. Well, you don't say. Yeah, because they never put all the reactors in it, did they? And they won't admit that the currents travel at 5 miles an hour, 24 hours a day, get here in North America in 45 days, and that there's a plume. Radioactive water reached 3,200 kilometers east of Fukushima 6 months ago. So early 2012, radioactive water was being picked up by rain, if that's all we got to go by. But all they talk about, they describe everything as a single plume. They describe everything as, there's 2,000 elements we're worried about. Fukushima ocean plume hit Canada 6 months ago. Preceded model prediction by several years. Well, that's the model coming up right here. Yeah, several years. Preceded model, human for study. IAEA experts predict radioactive seasoning will carry across the U.S. in 1 or 2 years. That was May the 5th. Well, the jet streams brought it over in 3 or 4 days. Within 7 days, it was all the way to the Atlantic, to Iceland. It didn't stop coming out of there. It's time to have them accused of, said this is not real. Every headline here is not real. The people that we're talking to, every headline here doesn't mean nothing. The people that are accusing me and the RCMP and Saanich Police Department, Constable Steve Crooks, refuses to acknowledge these headlines, went through 500 hours of it, around 10,000 headlines of these, and then found a couple of sentences, ignored all of that, and said the other guys were right, there's nothing here, and so we're going to arrest you. Their whole case is predicated upon every one of these headlines not being real. Fukushima radioactive plume continued to hit the shores of the US and Canada for decades. No, Dana, isn't that real, Dana? Sailor, after we left Japan, it felt as if the ocean itself was dead. No, Dana, you conspiracy theorist. Dana, you're just making shit up, Dana. He never seen anything, only one whale with a tumor or a lump on his head. Radiation, like heavy radiation will do that to you. It'll give you a big sore. It wasn't a tumor, it was a sore. It was infested. It was full of pus and everything else. Fukushima radiation possible culprit and huge starfish die-off from Mexico to Alaska. But why not look at radiation, huh? Well, what about all the stuff that I showed? We'll keep going through the headlines. Finish out the stream. But anyway, all 78 species have gone through the entire coastline. All 78 species. All of them. There's 2 species left hanging on, and they're barely hanging on in tidal zones. And the reason, that's why you can see a lot of sea urchins sometimes, but they're not healthy. They weren't harvestable. I hung out with the dive fleet for 2 months during the expedition. But because of all the starfish you gone, the sea urchins got free rein because that was their predator. But you won't see anything else there. You won't see the scallops, the mussels, the mollusks, the periwinkles, the abalones, the little necks, the manillas, the clamfish. You won't see the oysters in the video or the pictures of underwater, but you see sea urchins because they're the most popular thing in the ocean, in all 7 oceans. But then the divers were trying to harvest them, right? And they were having a hell of a time finding any quality whatsoever or quantities. That's a fact. Water with nuclear fuel coming up from the ocean floor off Fukushima coast. Tokyo professor, double Chernobyl. But yet, here's RT saying it's not. And cesium in the ocean likely return to Japan in 20 to 30 years. I guess we're almost close to the end of the show. Cracked floors in Fukushima reactors. Well, I showed you the pictures earlier. The buildings are totally wrecked. Twice as much contaminated water entered the ocean, Fukushima is officially claimed. That's not talking about snow and rain and runoffs from the lakes and rivers and estuaries where they're actually dumping this stuff at nighttime. This is just the reactors themselves. The whole country's contaminated, but 600 tons a day, just one day, is catastrophic. 600 tons a day for 17. That's over the top. That's crazies. That's madness. And 1,700 days. Think about it. Chernobyl only lasted 10 days, right? Let's keep going on those headlines. Study Fukushima contamination in the ocean reached Alaska in under a month. But here's everybody out there that is accusing me of being a little rough around the edges that it didn't show up here. And that their whole case against me is based upon smears in the media and based upon these headlines not being real, and based upon the jet streams and the ocean currents and everything else not being real. Discharges of Fukushima nuclear material into the Pacific Ocean. Hi, Raj. I'm almost finished, Raj. We're only a couple of minutes away. Like 4 minutes away. Melted reactor cores will burn again if water is not perpetually dumped into the ocean. Ha ha ha! Listen, these tanks, if we lose the site, look, we got no choice but to dump it somewhere, but why dump it in the ocean? Why not build tanks inland and truck it all there? Because we can't drive these trucks through communities. We can't contain this stuff. But we got no choice. Japan has no choice. They got to bring in barges and fill them up and deal with it. You can't keep dumping it into the ocean. We got to stop it. We got to stop these reactors. That's all that matters, is stopping the reactors. And so that's the 1 hour stream. Hugs for everybody. Remember, that's what it looks like. That's what the whole country looked like. And so how could you get in and stop these reactors after 90 minutes? You couldn't. How could you get power in there after 90 minutes? You couldn't. And was it just Fukushima? Of course not. And is that why the Pacific Ocean is dying? Because there's multiple reactors, most likely. I believe Fukushima could do it on its own, don't get me wrong. But because you got multiple reactors throughout the entire coastline, that's the end of the ball game. I'll come in and say hi to everybody. Have a nice day, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Good night, RWP, or good day, K. Remember that these live streams, and I'll bring that up very quick for everybody. These live streams are at live stream 7 days a week. You can see right there, link right over to me. Go over, find my name, type in my name, Dana Durham. You see my picture show up. That's how you subscribe, or you can find my site. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to have an account. You can watch it. You'll see the countdown timer. It's 10:30 a.m. Pacific Canada time, 7 days a week. I'm Dana Durham, nuclear proctologist. Hugs for everybody. Take care, folks.